So getting into the logistics, we have Isabella, Dr. Wagner is working with Ivory McDonald. They are the ones who are focused on the logistics. And I think, we start our program, and I think we'll get into it, but I think it's 120 days before a program, we're looking for the date. Although we would encourage you at the beginning of the year, secure your date, but it's no later than 120 days before we want to get the location, and then everything sort of goes into gear. I think we have a call at 7. It's called the 70-day call, where we'll go with the adjunct lecturer and their staff, including marketing, as well as admin, to go through things. But let's go through the financing on that. Isabella, you want to take over?
Yep. Thank you, Fred. So financing of the TPSU program, it starts, as Fred mentioned, date and location is the very first step. And then you need to get your sponsors committing for their amount for each TPSU program. So the schedule fee, we call it program fee, for virtual program is $15,000, and for the in-person program, it's $20,000. I make a big point of, additional to these $20,000 in-person program, is when the venue cost is above $1,500. So in the $20,000 program fee, we allocate $1,500 for venue, AV, and catering. Whatever is above the $1,500 will be added to the program fee itself. And we have a pretty wide range of venue costs. It really depends. New York is a pretty expensive venue. Chicago, we usually have very expensive venues, and it really depends. That's where we are, which venue, location, which university. The bigger the university, usually the more expensive the room reservation is. Catering cost is about $50 per person, calculated by us first as an estimate. So just keep in mind the $20,000 program fee will be plus the additional venue cost. We like to have a deposit to reserve and start the process of getting the venue finalized. We need a deposit of $3,500 from the lecturer. That can be some money you pay for us upfront, or if you give us sponsors, they have already committed at that time, that will also be counted as a deposit. It doesn't have to be paid by then, but we need to have that commitment of the sponsor. So this is the deposit of $3,500. We like to have 60 days before the program the rest of the sponsors listed, and I will invoice them. So when you have a commitment of a sponsor, you please send an email to me. Give me the name, the company, and the email, and the amount of the sponsorship. And I will send an email. I will make sure that the invoice will get paid. I also have created a document for you to view at any time, where you can see where your sponsorship and your funding is at a certain time. So I will give you a link to that spreadsheet, and you can see where we are, how much you need to raise, and where we are with payments.
And one of the key things here, when if you do decide you want to reach out to your provider partners, and I think they know it, but they're paying us. This is a TPSU program. It's not one of your programs. You're a speaker there. You're coordinating the efforts. You're getting the roster of speakers, but it has to be positioned as a TPSU program. It's better for marketing, but it's also critical for compliance on that. And we don't have any requirement on what the keynote speaker or the panelists or facilitators, but what we're seeing generally is the keynote is 5,000, the panelists, of which there are up to 4, are 2,500, and then the facilitators are 1,000 to 1,500. Again, that is not, we don't require that. We're seeing 80 to 90% of the fee being funded by sponsors. It depends on, you know, your relationship with your wholesalers, the size of the book of your business. For record keepers, it's how many plans have you done with them, new ones in the last 2 or 3 years. For DCIOs, it's the assets under management and the flow there on it. So, you know, we can help you, but it's really your relationship and it's the local wholesaler. We have a couple of providers who have a home office national budget, like American Funds, but they still rely on their local wholesaler to decide who they want to support and who they want to work with. So they understand this. All we need from you is this provider, ABC, record keeper ABC, wants to be the keynote. They've committed to 5,000, and then we take it from there. We invoice them, we work with them, and with rare exception, I think I can only think of one time for $1,000 for a sort of third tier DCIO. We've never had a provider say we can't pay you. They're all, you know, very, very good at that. So anything else before we get on the agenda, Isabel?
No question from me. Anybody else has a question?
Okay. So I'll go through the agenda because for new lecturers and for your first 2 programs, we commit to sending somebody from TPSU. If you have a hybrid where some of the people are virtual, then we have to come. It's a little complicated having the cameras there. We try to come to as many as we can, and it's either going to be me or my colleague Andy Keller, who's got 37 years of experience, and we've trained him extensively. If we're not there, we send you an Excel spreadsheet which has the minute by minute what you need to do, not just the agenda, but what are the different things you need to do, starting with 45 minutes before breakfast and the setup and all the way until after the program ends. So just to give a sense, we generally start the program at 8 o'clock for breakfast. Now, in certain areas like you know, downtown Chicago, we might start at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. LA, we might as well. So metropolitan areas might start a little bit later, but generally it's 8 o'clock to 8:30. You need to be there at 7:45 or 7:15 or 45 minutes before, because we find that people start coming in about a half hour even before breakfast starts, which is always a good sign. We want the table set up, and again, you don't have to worry about that because for your first 2 programs, I'll be there and help you to set up the table and how things will work. So I will start with an introduction. We do have a very short video. I think it's a 3-minute video when I'm not there, introduction, but I would probably, if we're not there, start yours and then just say, okay, we have an introduction from TPSU. But when I'm there, I do an introduction about TPSU and the program, and then I introduce the adjunct lecturer. Very, very important. What we've learned at UCLA CKP training is third-party endorsement. So nobody speaks unless another person introduces them, except for me. So I will then introduce the lecturer. The lecturer then starts session 1. In this case, it was Mark Tonelli in Denver. We had a great program with him last week on there. And we generally reserve 15 minutes, give or take, to go around the room and have people, all the plan sponsors, introduce themselves, their name, their role, their company, the number of employees. It's not participants or assets, it's number of employees, because we want to get a sense of the size of the company. And we also don't want to make it too salesy at the beginning, and why they came, what they're hoping to learn. I usually write it down. I write it down on the board so I can use that to assign them to groups in group number 4, or in session number 4. It also gives you a sense of who's in the room and what they're interested in. So you're not going to make major changes in your presentation, or the keynote, but it might affect what you focus on during the panel, and it might affect what you emphasize during your session as well as the keynote. Hopefully, some of those topics are going to be in your presentation. And then you have 45 minutes, give or take, for your presentation. In this case, Mark talked about behavioral finance and retirement readiness and how you can improve participant outcomes. We take a 15-minute break. During that break, I then assign people to groups when we break into lunch session 4. And I try to have at least 5 people and no more than 7 based on the size of their company. So they might have similar issues. 1,000-person companies are going to have different issues than someone with 100. We also collect questions. We distribute, when they register, a sheet where they can write down questions for the panel. And this break is really the only opportunity for the lecturer to collect those questions and maybe huddle with their panelists, maybe at the beginning of session 2, to go over the questions, because we want you to focus on that. So session 2 is the keynote, 45 minutes. Session 3, we go right into the panel on there. And again, we want you to focus on the questions and the top that are being submitted. People can also ask questions, and we try to make it interactive. We just found that when we allow them to write it down, we get more questions when we just wait to have them speak. It ends at 11:35. At 11:35, I will break them lunch, and I'll have on the board, assign them groups, and we get into what's working, what's not working. Smaller groups take a 15-minute break, and then they get their lunch and they go to their table. Optimally, we have round tables where you can set them. Otherwise, we move tables inside the U shape and we always do U shape other than tiered classrooms at 90% of the programs. And then we'll just move the chairs inside. So we have one on each corner, and maybe or 2 on, one at each of the corners, and 2 at the end there. So then they go into lunch. We have facilitators. I train the facilitators. We have instructions with them on what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to engage, not answer, and also be your eyes and ears. What are the hot topics? And they'll write notes. We have forms. They write notes, which they need to give to you, so that when you're following up, you understand, here are the things they're interested in doing. That's a very long session. It's also our #1 most highly rated session. We generally stop 15 to 20 minutes before the end, because then we ask plan sponsors who have been assigned to take notes for the group to come up and report back to everyone else. That is not only so we can share what each group is working and not working, but it also, now they are the lecturers. It's their peers who are up there speaking. It's not just a bunch of talking heads from the industry. It's really them doing that. So then we then go right into the ideal plan. When I'm there, I will do that for a half hour. That's the auto plan. What are the features? What does it look like? And then we give a scenario of, okay, here's what somebody in a sample plan versus the ideal plan, and it shows a 4 times increase in the amount of money that they have. Very, very effective. It's very important that we end there. And then the final is the close, where we do get the forms, the evaluation forms, the referral forms, the improvement opportunity checklist. It's a list of things they may want to do: improve employee education, benchmark their record keeper, find a new advisor. It's a checklist. They can add whatever they want. there, but we get the top copy again. You get that so that when you're following up, you know what they want to do and you act as their coach. Valuation, referral, that, and then we do the CE. We get 5 hours of SHRM, HRCI, and CPE credits, and we'll go over that a little bit on that. And then I give you an opportunity to say a few words. I give you a plug with you and encourage people to meet with you. We do say that there's a commitment by all our lecturers that they will answer any questions. They want third-party, impartial, unbiased answers. We say that you're available to do that, and we encourage them to meet with you on it. So anyway, that is the program, and that's what the day looks like. It's always it's always 6 hours from the time that breakfast starts to the end. So if we start at 9, we end at 3. If we start at breakfast at 8:30, we end at 2:30. So Isabella or anybody, anything you want to add to that?
There's another question in the chat from Dennis. Would you suggest inviting plan sponsors whose plan we already support?
Absolutely. You should invite them and reference them. That's your, like, you're getting client referrals right there. When you have clients in the attending, you can say, oh yeah, we had that problem, and Isabella, how did we deal with that problem? We were looking at creating an investment policy statement or trying to create a committee, and now hopefully endorse you and say, oh yeah, Fred did a great job in helping, us create a committee. We also find that if you have people on the fence, prospects that you're talking to, maybe you've been talking to them a long time, this is a great closing opportunity. If they come, they see you, you're a lecturer at Notre Dame or the University of Chicago or UCLA, and you're lecturing there for 6 hours, it's very impressive. It's like no other advisor is going to be in that same position. You might say, well, I'll already do that myself. Your job is to bring me new opportunities. You can do that, and that we'll do it. But why not leverage? We don't charge you more if you bring clients or if you bring prospects. We guarantee you that everybody that we're responsible for bringing, we guarantee at least 13 companies on average over the course of the year. But we don't charge more if you get 25, 30, 35, and we're starting out the year very, very strong. So hopefully that answers the question. Any other questions? Okay. So let's get into the actual logistics, and this will be Ivory and Isabella going through that with you.
Okay, so I will start, but Ivory is the one who really makes all the connections with the venues. The first step is getting a location and a date. The date on our calendar, we do 2 programs per week, and we only do it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. And we do not do any programs in weeks with a federal holiday, like Labor Day. That entire week is blocked, or for 4th of July, of course, that is a blocked week. So getting on the calendar is really important. I like also to have your fall program if you want to do programs a year, not asking me in summer. I would like to get that scheduled already at the beginning of the year. So usually fall and spring and fall months, they are the most demanded months from the lectures. So getting you on the schedule is a big step. And then we also rely on you and giving us the location. You are local. We are here in Florida. So if you are in Connecticut and I don't know the universities there, we rely on your recommendation. We have locations we had done programs before. Of course, we like to go back there because we already have a relationship and we know it's working, but we are also open for any new venues. We usually go to universities and colleges. That gives a little bit of that educational background, and I think it's very well received from our plan sponsor attendees. So this is date and location, and as I said, Ivory is doing all the connections with the locations. She will communicate with the lecturer, and we like also to have the lecturer visit the venue.
And Isabella, they can schedule based on a Google Calendar that you share with them, right?
I can share the calendar. Most of them would like to discuss with me any dates. That's fine. So you just communicate. Either I can give you the link to the calendar, or we just discuss the dates by phone. That's fine. Okay. Ivory, anything you can add to the location and the process you are doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ivory McDonald. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. One thing that we like to do, if it's a new venue that we've not been to, we usually like to ask our lecturers to go and visit the room and the location to make sure that you are comfortable with the room, the space, the venue, the parking, and then you let us know, and then we move forward. I will never sign a contract or move forward with a reservation until getting an approval from you. And I will send that to you in an email asking you to approve the date and the location. Would you like me to continue, Isabella, or do you want to continue?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so after we have procured the room and we have moved forward with the reservation, I will send an email to you and to your team requesting an advance, what we call an advance call or a 70-day advance call. It's a chance for you to meet our team, and we meet your team. We discuss the content, we discuss the funding, and we discuss the marketing aspect of your program as well as the logistics. And if you have anyone on your team that we are not aware of that you want to be a part of this meeting, if you could let us know in my email, and we will include them on that meeting. Isabel, is there anything you'd like to add on that in the advance call?
In the advanced call, and you see it as a bullet point here on the slide, we ask for a do not call list. That means people you would like to invite yourself, and you would not TPSU having reaching out to the same people. We call that a do not call list. We will need that in advance, usually 6 weeks before the program, so we can exclude these companies, specific names from our list to reach out for recruiting and registrations. It's not mandatory. You do not have to have a do not call list. It's just something we respect. If you tell us, oh, I have 50 clients or 30 clients, I would like to reach out myself, that is fine with us. So that is what we call a do not call list. And during that advanced call, that's one thing we ask for. Any questions for that do not call list? Sometimes it's not coming over clearly enough. Okay. No questions? Okay.
In addition to that do not call list, we will ask for several items such as your bio. For those of you who are returning lecturers, we have something on file, but usually we like to ask to make sure that you don't have any changes that you would like to make. And from the time of the advanced call to the time of your program, I am working, communicating with the venue, communicating with you, making sure that the setup is the way that we want it, making sure the catering, our head count, also working with the website, making sure we have your agenda on the website, updating it as we go along because changes are always happening. And a week before your program, Isabella will reach out to you and your panelists and your keynote to set up what we call a speaker prep meeting. Isabel, if you'd like to take it from there.
Okay, there is a question I would like to answer first. Lorenzo asked, is there a limit to the number of clients on the do not call list? That's a very good question, and I missed to mention that. Yes, there is a limit. We ask for not more than 50 companies, 50 companies to have excluded from our list. So that is a good question. Thanks, Lorenzo. There is another question. What website are you referring to? So we post the programs 60 days before the program date on our TPSU website. It's tpsuniversity.com. And when you go to schedule, you see the programs listed there for the next 60 days out to the program date. And you can also click there on details. We have this extra register button for each program there. And as we go along, as I've already mentioned, we will update the bio of yours. Only the lecturer's bio is listed there. And we update the agenda. A few weeks before the program, we also add the driving and parking directions, which Ivory is putting together on that same website. So everybody who's interested, and especially when we start confirming with registrations, we refer to our website and to these documents. It's very, very helpful. Okay, Dennis is also asking, could I have info on the event on my own website? Brad, that is more a question for you, please.
Yes, absolutely you can. But what we ask is that it links to ours, so that if everybody is interested, they can register. So you don't want to have too much information, but absolutely. And we think that it's best if it's positioned as this is a TPSU program to which I am supporting, which I am speaking, not to position it as, oh, this is my program on that, just because I think that we'll get more people going to an independent third party training and education than it might come to yours. So, but we do absolutely, you can have a link, and we probably want to look at what it says, and we want to make sure we want you to use our branding, but if you do use our branding, we need to approve whatever it is.
Thank you, Fred. There's
Isabel.
also another question from Evan in our chat room about CE credits. We will answer that question a little later. We have a little bit more information about that.
Here we go into big detail on that, Evan.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Very important.
Very good. So next here on this for logistics in general is the program supply box. Ivory has more details about that.
So a week before your program, I will send you an email asking for you to confirm the address that you would like your program supply box. The program supply box is going to have everything that you're going to need for your program. And I am actually in the middle of working on a box for a program next week. And so I have the content list here in front of me. So some of the items you'll see in that box are the agenda, the evaluation forms, TPSU blue tablecloth, the TPSU yellow table runner, markers, pens, tape, all the items that your tent cards, the name tags, all of the items that you'll need for the program, and that will be sent to you a week before your program. So I will ask you to confirm the address. We usually like to send it to you 2-day shipping. So if I prepare the box on Tuesday, you should get it by Thursday. And so if you're a returning lecturer, I will ask you if you do have your box from your last program and what you have in there to make sure that I'm not sending you duplicate items. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to put that in the chat. We ask that once you get that box, as soon as you get that box, please open the box. There's a checklist on there please compare the checklist with what's in the box. Make sure that everything is there. If you see that something is missing, don't hesitate to call or email me, and I will get that to you as soon as possible. Any questions on that? Perfect. Okay, so moving on, we have here day before items to print. So the day before your program, I will send what I call documents to print, and it will have a few items on there, such as your overall recap. The overall recap will have a setup, what the setup of the room is supposed to be, as well as the parking and driving instructions. It will also include the updated agenda and evaluation form. So if there were any changes made to your agenda between the time that the box was shipped to the day of your program, we'll send you an updated agenda for you to print. We will also have the sign-in sheet for the plan sponsors. So, and this is very important, when the plan sponsors come to the program, they need to sign that sheet indicating what time that they showed up and also indicating what time that they leave. Also checking off whether or not they want the credits, APA, CPE, and that's very important. Next, we'll have in that email bio for your keynote speaker for you to print so that you can have that when you're introducing your keynote. And then we will have any additional name tags or tent cards. So if any other people registered for your program after I ship the box, I will send you the additional name tags and tent cards for you to print. Any questions on that? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ivory. Any questions in general for what we just covered? Okay, all good. Then moving on to the next slide. So this is our standard TPSU invitation postcard. We call it still postcard. Before COVID, we really mailed out these as postcards, but now we are just doing them as PDF files. This is a document we will provide to the lecturer, and this is pretty much your invitation. You can use that as an invitation to invite your clients and prospects or whoever you want to invite to attend the program. This is not something we use anymore. This is specifically created for the lecture. Okay.
And we're running a little bit late, so we need to move through this quickly if we can. Yeah.
Okay, so this will also be covered a little later with the associations. I just make it very short. We are approved for 5 hours for the in-person program with SHRM, HRCI, American Payroll Association, and we are also a sponsor for CE credits. This is mostly for CPAs. The virtual program covers 3 hours of CE credits. One difference between SHRM and the other 3 associations. SHRM credits can be granted for each attendee, for each TPSU program they attend per year. HRCI, CPE, and APA credits only go once a year. That's just how the association sets up the CE credits. We also have 2 online courses covered for CE credits with SHRM and HRCI. We have a list of 12 online courses on our learning management system that is available for everybody who has attended the TPSU program. We will have certificates of completion for CPE credits and the American Payroll Association credits, which are called RCH. These certificates will be mailed out from TPSU because we have to do it within 2 days. This, just to mention it here, I will cover it a little later as well. Okay, any questions to CE credits? Okay, very good. Follow-up items for attendees. So this is what I just mentioned, a little bit of it. So we provide to the first bullet point here is everybody who has attended the TPSU program is eligible for the certified 401k plan fiduciary designation. This is something we are offering to all plan sponsor attendees. The only requirement is they must hold a certification with SHRM, HRCI, APA, or being a CPA. Yep.
If I could just, so we had done it where you have to take 12 courses and a test, and it was $295. We find that these people really like designation, so this is a good follow-up for you. We're waiving the $295 fee. There is no longer a test or an online requirement just by attending, but they have to say, yes, I want it. And there's a $99 every 2-year CE fee, and 5 hours, which they can get from other, going to SHRM or any other education, as well as our online. And we will waive that $99 fee if in that 2-year period they also attend a TPSU program. So we're getting very strong reception, but this is something you can follow up with, and you're offering them something that has real tangible monetary value as well as professional as well. So sorry, Isabel.
Yeah, that's good additions. Thank you. We also have, as I mentioned, 12 courses they can have access to in our TPSU learning management system. It's very informational courses. I talked yesterday to somebody who took all 12 courses. She loved the information we have there. And she said, it's just everybody should know there is good information out there. They can have it. So if you can mention that in your follow-up, you will get from us the instructions how they can access the learning management system. So this is really a good follow-up. We ask all attendees to fill out a survey at the end of the TPSU program. This is in person, so they fill it out at the end, and you keep they leave it at the venue. You get that evaluation forms back with you to your office, and you send us scans of the evaluation. We will provide a summary of all these evaluations, and they are really interesting because most of them, they love, first of all, that it's not salesy. It's a purely educational program. I see that many times in evaluations, in surveys. The other thing, what Fred also said before, they love the peer-to-peer discussion, that they see others have the same problems in their plans as they also have. So this is really a good way. You can also communicate after you get the evaluations. If they have any questions, we will let you know. So a good way to follow up. We follow up with a briefing on social media that will be explained a little bit later in an extra session. Okay, so this is something you only will receive after the program. You will receive the list of attendees, of plan sponsor attendees, with their complete contact information. We provide a letter of appreciation for you. This is on the TPSU stationery, since you are representing TPSU. We will provide a certificate of attendance for each plan sponsor attendees. These certificates, they are for everybody who has attended, and this is your follow-up. We do not send out these certificate of attendances. So this is your item, and also the instructions how to access the learning management system.
Yeah, and I think that just before we move on to marketing and recruiting, the certificate of attendance should go printed out into their fiduciary file or electronically in their file. If the Department of Labor ever says, what kind of training do you have? At least they have this. Now they can get their CKPF, which is even stronger. It's a very important and follow-up item. So